The Galactic Distress Call. The radio telescope array at Arecibo had been scanning the cosmos for decades, searching for signs of intelligent life among the stars. On a quiet Tuesday morning, it found something that would change humanity forever. Dr. Elena Vasquez rushed into the control room, her coffee still steaming as she examined the impossible signal streaming across her monitors. "This can't be right," she whispered, adjusting her glasses as she stared at the data. The signal was coming from the Andromeda Galaxy, over 2 million light-years away. But more shocking than the distance was what the computers were telling her about its contents. Captain Marcus Kane arrived at the facility within hours of Elena's emergency call to Earth Defense Command. A veteran of humanity's first interplanetary conflicts, Marcus had seen enough to know when something demanded immediate attention. His weathered face showed no emotion as Elena explained what they had discovered. "The signal is definitely artificial," Elena said, her voice shaking with excitement and fear. "Our translation algorithms have been working on it for 6 hours. It's a distress call, Captain. Someone out there is dying and they're begging for help." Marcus studied the scrolling text on Elena's screen. The message was fragmentary, but its meaning was clear enough to chill his blood. The Zephyrian Collective, a civilization spanning hundreds of worlds, was facing complete extinction. Something called the Devourers had consumed 90% of their territory. Their fleets were shattered, their colonies burned, their people fleeing in whatever ships they could find. "They're calling out to anyone who might listen," Elena continued. "Any civilization capable of faster-than-light travel. They're sharing their star charts, their technology, everything they have left. It's their final gamble before the darkness takes them completely." Communications Officer Jake Rivers looked up from his station. "Captain, we're receiving acknowledgement signals from across our local galactic cluster. At least 40 different civilizations have heard this message, but, sir, none of them are responding to the Zephyrians." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "What do you mean, not responding?" "The alien chatter we're intercepting suggests they all consider the Devourers too dangerous. Every species that has encountered them before has either fled or been destroyed. No one wants to risk drawing their attention." Elena pulled up a holographic display showing the Andromeda Galaxy. Vast, dark regions marked where the Devourers had already consumed entire star systems. According to the Zephyrian data, these things have been destroying civilizations for millions of years. They're not interested in conquest or resources. They simply consume everything and move on. Marcus stood silent for a long moment, watching the distress signal continue to pulse across the screens. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, an entire civilization was crying out for salvation, and the universe was turning away. "Patch me through to Earth Command," he said finally. "It's time humanity made its choice." The emergency session of the Global Defense Council lasted 18 hours. Representatives from every nation on Earth debated in heated voices while the Zephyrian distress call continued to pulse from speakers throughout the chamber. President Chen Wei of the Pacific Federation slammed her hand on the table, her voice cutting through the arguments. "We're talking about traveling to another galaxy," she said. "Our fastest ships would take millions of years to reach them. By then, there won't be anyone left to save." Captain Marcus Kane stood at the center of the circular chamber, watching the faces of world leaders as they grappled with humanity's first truly galactic decision. Some showed fear, others determination, but all understood the weight of this moment. "Ma'am, with respect, we're not talking about our current technology," Marcus replied. "The Zephyrians included technical specifications in their transmission. Dr. Rodriguez believes we can adapt their faster-than-light designs to our existing fleet." Engineer Luna Rodriguez stepped forward, her tablet displaying complex mathematical equations. Her young face showed the exhaustion of someone who hadn't slept in days, but her eyes burned with possibility. "The principles are sound. Their quantum tunneling drives could be retrofitted to our battleships within 6 months. The journey to Andromeda would take 3 years instead of millions." Chancellor Mueller of the European Alliance shook his head. "Even if the technology works, we'd be sending our entire space fleet on a one-way mission. If we fail, Earth is defenseless. Earth is already defenseless if these Devourers continue their expansion." Marcus countered. The Zephyrian data shows they consume entire galactic clusters. Eventually, they'll reach the Milky Way. We can fight them there, or we can fight them here when we're completely unprepared. Prime Minister Okafor of the African Commonwealth leaned forward. Captain Kane, you're asking us to risk everything, on the word of aliens we've never met, to fight enemies we don't understand. Luna pulled up a holographic display showing the intercepted communications from other civilizations. We're not the only ones who received this message. 43 different species heard the Zephyrian call. Every single one has chosen to ignore it or actively flee in the opposite direction. That should tell us something, muttered the Brazilian delegate. It tells us that we're different, Marcus said firmly. Every species out there is thinking about survival, about protecting what they have. We're the only ones thinking about what's right. The debate continued through the night, but Marcus could see the tide turning. Humanity had always been drawn to impossible challenges, had always chosen to help those who couldn't help themselves. It was what made them human. Finally, President Chen called for the vote. All in favor of Operation Distant Thunder? 1. By 1, hands rose around the chamber. Not all of them, but enough. The motion passed by a narrow margin, and with it, humanity committed itself to the most ambitious mission in its history. 6 months later, the human fleet assembled at Luna Station. 50 battleships, their hulls gleaming with newly installed Zephyrian drive systems. 10,000 of Earth's finest military personnel, scientists and engineers, ready to journey across the void. Luna Rodriguez stood beside Marcus on the bridge of the flagship Terra's Vengeance, watching Earth shrink to a blue dot behind them. Marcus, what if we're wrong? What if we can't make a difference? Marcus activated the fleet communications. All ships, this is Kane. Today we answer a call that echoed across the stars. We go not as conquerors, but as protectors. We rise not for glory, but because someone needs to. The quantum drives engaged, and humanity began its impossible journey to save a dying galaxy. 3 years after leaving Earth, the human fleet emerged from quantum space at the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy. What they found was worse than their darkest fears. Entire star systems had been reduced to cold, empty space, where once vibrant worlds had orbited their suns. Only debris fields remained, slowly spreading into the cosmic void. Commander Kai Thompson stood at the tactical station aboard Terra's Vengeance, his scarred hands gripping the console as he studied the sensor readings. A veteran of the Mars colonial wars, Kai had seen devastation before, but nothing on this scale. Captain Kane, I'm reading massive energy signatures 30 light-years ahead. Whatever did this is still active. Marcus moved to the main view screen, watching as their sensors painted a picture of systematic destruction. Any sign of survivors? Wait, called Communications Officer Rachel Park from her station. I'm picking up a weak transmission. It's Zephyrian, but the signal is fragmented. The main speaker crackled to life, filled with static and desperation. Anyone, please respond. Refugee fleet, running out of power. They're coming back. Luna Rodriguez worked frantically at her engineering station. I can boost the signal, routing through our secondary arrays now. The static cleared, revealing a voice speaking in accented but understandable English. This is Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian refugee fleet. If anyone can hear this, we are the last survivors of our civilization. We have perhaps days before our ships fail completely. Marcus activated the response channel. Commander Veltar, this is Captain Marcus Kane of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. We've come to help. The silence that followed stretched for long minutes. When Veltar's voice returned, it carried a mixture of disbelief and desperate hope. Terrans? You came from the Milky Way? That's impossible. The journey would take millions of years. We adapted your quantum drive technology, Marcus replied. What's your current position? An hour later, the human fleet rendezvoused with the Zephyrian survivors. 50 massive human battleships surrounded a handful of damaged alien vessels that looked more like floating cities than warships. The Zephyrians themselves were tall, graceful beings with crystalline skin that reflected light in prismatic patterns. Commander Veltar materialized on the bridge via holographic communicator, his crystal features showing the exhaustion of someone who had been fighting a losing war for decades. Captain Kane, I must warn you, the Devourers are not like anything you've faced. They are ancient machines, older than most civilizations. They consume not just matter, but energy, life force itself. How do we fight them? Kai asked, his tactical mind already working on the problem. Veltar's light dimmed with despair. You don't fight them. You run. Every species that has tried to stand against them has been consumed. The Altarian Empire, the Crystalline Confederation, the Void Walkers, all destroyed. We are the last, because we learned to flee. Marcus studied the tactical data the Zephyrians shared. The Devourers were massive constructs, each one the size of a small moon, covered in defensive systems that had evolved over millions of years. Their swarm numbered in the thousands, moving from galaxy to galaxy like a plague of metal locusts. Captain, Luna called from her station, I'm analyzing their energy signatures. These things are designed to absorb conventional weapons fire and convert it into power for their systems. The more you shoot at them, the stronger they become. Kai cursed under his breath. No wonder every civilization has failed. Traditional warfare is useless against them. But Marcus was studying the data with different eyes. Where others saw an unstoppable force, he saw patterns, weaknesses, possibilities. Luna, what happens if we don't feed them energy? What if we use kinetic weapons instead of energy beams? Kinetic weapons would be absorbed too eventually, but Luna's eyes widened as she ran calculations. Captain, if we could deliver a concentrated kinetic strike at precisely the right resonance frequency, we might be able to disrupt their energy absorption matrix. Veltar's hologram flickered with confusion. I don't understand. You plan to fight them with primitive projectile weapons? Not primitive, Marcus smiled grimly. Creative. Commander Thompson, prepare the fleet for combat. It's time to show the galaxy what humans do when everyone else gives up. On the tactical display, the Devourer swarm appeared as a dark cloud advancing toward their position, consuming everything in its path. For the first time in millions of years, they were about to face an enemy that refused to run. Dr. Nina Castellanos had been studying the Devourer technology for 72 hours straight when she made the discovery that would change everything. Her dark eyes were bloodshot from staring at alien data streams, but her voice carried electric excitement as she called Captain Kane to the research bay. Marcus, you need to see this, Nina said, pointing to her holographic display showing the internal structure of a Devourer construct. I've been analyzing the energy absorption patterns, and there's something the Zephyrians missed. Marcus studied the swirling data, watching as Nina highlighted specific neural pathways within the massive machines. What am I looking at, Nina? They're not just machines, Marcus. Each Devourer has a central consciousness, a core intelligence that coordinates with the others through quantum entanglement. They operate as a hive mind, but that connection is also their weakness. Luna Rodriguez joined them, wiping grease from her hands after working on the kinetic weapon modifications. Are you saying we can disrupt their communications? Better than that, Nina replied, her excitement growing. If we can overload the quantum entanglement network at precisely the right moment, we can turn their greatest strength against them. The neural feedback would cascade through the entire swarm. Commander Kai Thompson entered the research bay, followed by Commander Veltar's holographic projection. The Zephyrian leader's crystalline features showed skepticism mixed with desperate hope. Dr. Castellanos, Veltar said, many of our greatest scientists tried to find such weaknesses. The Devourers have existed for millions of years. Surely, if such a vulnerability existed, it would have been discovered. Nina turned to face the alien commander. That's exactly the problem. Every species has tried to fight them alone. You've all been thinking in terms of your own technological paradigms. But what if the solution requires cooperation between different types of consciousness? She activated a new display showing the quantum signatures of various species. Humans think differently than Zephyrians, Zephyrians process information differently than the other surviving species we've detected hiding throughout the galaxy. The Devourer's hive mind is designed to counter individual species' thought patterns, but it's never faced a truly unified multi-species intelligence. Marcus began to understand. You're talking about creating a combined consciousness network, using our differences as an advantage. Exactly, Nina nodded. The Unity Protocol. If we can link the neural patterns of multiple species into a coordinated strike, we can create quantum interference patterns the Devourers can't adapt to fast enough. Kai frowned at the tactical implications. How many species would we need? At least 7 different consciousness types, Nina replied. We have humans and Zephyrians. That's 2. But according to our long-range sensors, there are survivor fleets from at least 12 other civilizations hiding in dead systems throughout this galactic arm. Veltar's light flickered with amazement. You want to convince species that have been hiding for decades to come out and fight alongside us? Many of them consider each other enemies. Then we'll have to show them a better way, Marcus said firmly. Kai, begin transmitting on all frequencies. Wide-band message to every survivor group we can detect. Tell them humanity offers alliance, not conquest. Over the next week, something unprecedented happened in the Andromeda Galaxy. One by one, refugee fleets began emerging from hiding. The proud warrior caste Draknari, who had fought the Zephyrians for centuries, arrived with their battle-scarred dreadnoughts. The peaceful ethereal collective, beings of pure energy who communicated through harmonic resonance, manifested their presence through controlled spatial distortions. The ancient void shepherds, whose consciousness existed partially in subspace, brought technology that could bend reality itself. Each species brought their own perspective, their own way of thinking, their own unique approach to problem-solving. Under human coordination, these differences began to merge into something greater than the sum of its parts. This is impossible, Veltar whispered as he watched the multi-species fleet formations taking shape. In all recorded history, this many civilizations have never cooperated willingly. Marcus stood on the bridge of Terra's Vengeance, watching. The tactical displays show hundreds of ships from dozens of species moving in perfect coordination. Commander, you're thinking like someone who's been defeated. We're thinking like people who refuse to accept defeat. The Unity Protocol Network came online, linking the consciousness patterns of 14 different species into a single harmonized intelligence. For the first time in galactic history, the Devourer swarm would face not just another victim, but a truly unified force that thought in ways their ancient programming could never predict. Nina's voice echoed across the fleet communication system. All ships' Unity Protocol is active. The network is stable. We are no longer separate species fighting for survival. We are one voice, echoing across the stars. The final battle began at the edge of the Zephyrian home system, where the massive Devourer mothership had established its central processing node. The ancient construct was larger than Earth's moon, its dark surface covered in millions of smaller, Devourer units that moved like metallic insects across its hull. Around it, the swarm stretched across space in a formation that had destroyed 1,000 civilizations. Captain Marcus Kane stood at the center of the Unity Protocol command bridge, his consciousness linked to 13 other species leaders through the neural network. He could feel their thoughts, their fears, their determination flowing through him like rivers of light. For the first time in his life, he truly understood what it meant to not be alone. All units, this is Kane, he broadcast across the unified fleet. Today, we don't fight as humans, Zephyrians, or Draknari. We fight, as one voice answering the call that echoed across the stars. We fight so that no civilization will ever face extinction alone again. The Devourer swarm detected their approach and began its ancient battle protocols. Energy beams that could shatter planets lanced out toward the Allied fleet, but something unprecedented happened. The Unity Protocol network predicted each attack, patterned before the Devourers could complete their targeting sequences. Ships moved in impossible coordination, each species' unique capabilities flowing together like notes in a cosmic symphony. Commander Kai Thompson coordinated the kinetic weapon strikes, while his consciousness remained linked to Draknari war leaders and ethereal tactical minds. Firing solution optimal. All ships release kinetic projectiles at resonance frequency 77 alpha. Thousands of specially modified projectiles streak toward the Devourer mothership, their frequency precisely calculated to disrupt the quantum entanglement field. But the ancient machine began adapting, its surface shifting to absorb the kinetic energy, just as it had absorbed everything else for millions of years. That's when Dr. Nina Castellanos activated the second phase of their plan. Unity Protocol Network. Prepare for consciousness cascade. We're going to give them something they've never encountered before. Through the neural link, the thoughts and experiences of 14 different species flowed directly into the Devourer hive mind. The ancient consciousness, designed to process and counter individual species' mental patterns, suddenly faced the combined creativity, emotion, and determination of an unprecedented alliance. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the Devourers. Their hive mind, evolved over millions of years to counter single-species thought patterns, couldn't process the chaotic harmony of unified consciousness. Error cascades rippled through their quantum network as they tried to adapt to 14 completely different ways of thinking simultaneously. "It's working," Luna Rodriguez called from her engineering station. "Their energy absorption matrix is destabilizing. They can't maintain coherence." Across the battlefield, individual Devourer units began shutting down as their collective intelligence fragmented. The mothership's surface flickered with unstable energy patterns as its ancient programming fought to comprehend the impossible unity it faced. But Marcus knew this was only the beginning. Even as the local swarm collapsed, more Devourer fleets were converging from across the galaxy. The real victory wouldn't come from destroying these ancient machines, but from ensuring the unity they had forged would survive. "All ships begin wideband transmission," Marcus ordered. "Send the Unity Protocol to every corner of the galaxy. Let every surviving civilization know that the age of hiding is over." Commander Veltar's holographic image appeared beside Marcus, the Zephyrian's crystalline features glowing with amazement. "Captain Kane, our long-range sensors are detecting response signals from across both Andromeda and the Milky Way. Hundreds of species are acknowledging the transmission." The message, that had begun as a desperate cry for help from a dying civilization, had become something greater. The Unity Protocol spread from system to system, carried by quantum communications that traveled faster than light itself. Species that had hidden in fear for millennia began emerging, reaching out to join the growing alliance. Luna's voice carried wonder as she reported from her station. "Marcus, we're receiving acknowledgement signals from civilizations we never knew existed. The Spiral Confederation, the Deep Core Collective, the Wanderer fleets. They're all requesting Unity Protocol integration." As the last of the local Devourer swarm fell silent, Marcus realized they had achieved something far greater than military victory. They had proven that unity was possible, that cooperation could triumph over fear, that the voice of hope could echo across the stars louder than any cry of despair. "This is Captain Marcus Kane to all Allied forces," he broadcast across the expanding network. "The call has been answered. Humanity rose to meet it, but we did not rise alone. Today, we all rise together. The galaxy will never be the same." In the years that followed, the Unity Protocol would become the foundation of a new galactic civilization, one where differences were celebrated as strengths and where no world would ever face extinction alone. The echo that had begun with one desperate call for help had become a chorus of united voices, singing across the stars.